Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life with me, Mr. Shelton. Today we're looking at quite an interesting one, and I'm chuckling because we're starting a new series off, which is what would we do in our kingdom. We're thinking about the kingdom of God, and we're thinking about what Christians think about the values that they may have and how the kingdom of God might be different than the world that we live in. Today's lesson is one that I've taught a number of times based on some curriculum bites by RE Today, which is just a brilliant resource that we're going to go through today with my own little spin on it, because it's about what would you do if the world ended. Now, forgive me if that sounds a little bit insensitive with what's currently going on around the world, but we're going to be thinking about what we would do in a new world order, and hopefully we're somewhere off that yet. So I'd like you just to be thinking about what would you think you needed to do if the had to create a new society, and have a think of that while we've got on our cheesy intro music. So it's going to be a good outcome if you can explain what you think needs to happen when a new society is being set up. It's going to be great if you can select relevant information from the decisions that we've made throughout this lesson to help you create suitable rules for your society. And it's going to be even better if you can distinguish between the rules that bring fairness and the rules that are necessary for the greater good. So there's quite a lot we're going to cover there today, and our literacy skill is oracy. Now that means speaking. Now obviously that's going to be a little bit harder to do because you're probably doing this in isolation by yourselves if you're watching this. So the best thing to do really is to get onto Messenger or WhatsApp or something like that and do this lesson with somebody else as well, so you can bounce some ideas off each other, because you'll find this a lot easier to do that. So during today's session then, we're kind of learning review, not really going to do a huge amount of time of that. There's a grid we're going to look at, you're going to do some research, and then you're going to create a charter. So to start off with then, as a group, or individually if you'd rather, I'd like you to work out, looking at the grid in the description below, what do you think about these? Okay, so you're going to go through each of these now and just tick, do you strongly agree through to strongly disagree? And if you're doing this as a group, have a chat about why you think what you do, because you might find that your views are different than the other people. So pause me now while you do that, and then come back to me. Okay, so with that information done, I've got a little intro sequence I'm going to show you now. Not my usual cheesy intro sequence, you've already seen that, but I'm going to show you this, and I'd like you to watch this, and this will give you the concept of what we are doing.
Welcome to the brave new world. Well, it's a new world, but whether it is brave is up to you lot. Now imagine that this news report was on TV last night, and it was the last report ever to be broadcast on TV.
So we've got further reports of sightings coming in from across the UK. In Newcastle, what we can see, Angel of the North has been lit up under the lights of the Memory. We're now going live to the House of Parliament for a report from Kelly McShale. Kelly.
John, as you can see behind me, the sky is still alight. The Prime Minister has called an emergency meeting of the Cabinet to discuss what, if anything, can be done to avoid disaster. It's becoming increasingly clear. Okay, I'm still running. Yes. The sound is deafening. It doesn't feel like an exaggeration to say that it feels like things will never be the same again. It's like it's the end of the world. It's fine. I can't believe this is happening.
Society as we know it is now over. All of the institutions we take for granted have collapsed. Out of the thousands who survived, you 20 have been selected to make all the decisions. Everyone is counting on your wisdom and judgment. But they are not the first to try to create a new world. The last 100 years have produced more than a few people determined to make a new society. Sadly, most of them were tyrants. Hitler came to power declaring a new order for Germany and a Reich that would last 1,000 years. Adolf, it barely made double figures. In Cambodia in the 1970s, Pol Pot, the so-called brother number one of the communist government, forced the country to return to year zero. Everyone, even city dwellers, were made to work on the land. About 2 million died in the notorious killing fields. Religious groups have shown, however, that it is possible, at least on a small scale, to create new communities for their own followers. Christian monasteries, the Sikh temple at Amritsar, and the Islamic holy city of Mecca. But leaders such as Hitler and Stalin discredited the idea of us humans being able to create successful new societies on a big scale. After the Second World War, William Golding wrote Lord of the Flies, the story of a group of schoolboys stranded on a deserted island who become brutal murderers. Golding had a bleak view of human nature, but could our plucky 20 prove him wrong? If society as we know it ended, what would you miss? What would you be frightened might happen? Or are you confident that you'd be able to start again successfully?
Brilliant. Okay, so the next thing I'd like you to do is to access the grid that's in the description below. Now, you'll see there's lots on this grid, and that is absolutely intentional because the majority of this lesson will be for you to work on this grid. So you'll find there's 4 situations, 1 at each corner. You'll see there's some information for you to come up with some rules, some resources, your reflection about what you've just seen as well. So Mass suggests that you start with thinking about the reflection from what you've just seen. So pause me now, give yourself a few minutes and come back to me when you've done that top middle box there. Okay, so with that done, what I'm going to do now is I've got 4 different situations I'm going to give you. And I think what would be really good is for you to break this down in your work. So the way that I suggest that you do this is you give yourself 5 minutes, 6 minutes or so to start working on some of these boxes, start making some notes about things. And then in about 5 minutes time, unpause me. So in about 5 minutes time, unpause me, and then I'll read the first scenario to you. Then you complete scenario box number 1. You discuss that as a group, and then pause me again, obviously, while you discuss it. And then after a few minutes, see if you've changed your thinking, and then unpause me for scenario number 2, and so on. And obviously, if you spread it out, you'll find that your thinking develops, and that's the whole point of this exercise. If you do them all together, then you might start to not see some of the nuances, some of the differences of where I'm going. So pause me now, get done, give 5-6 minutes time of work time, and then come back to me for the situations. Okay, so I'm going to go through situation number 1 now. A group of people come to your community asking to join it, saying that their community has run out of food. Okay, that's the situation number 1. A group of people come to your community asking to join it, saying that their community has run out of food. What would you do? So pause me now and make some notes. Okay, I'm going to go through situation number 2 now. Someone in your community kills another person. They claim it was an accident. Someone in your community kills another person. They claim it was an accident. So have that discussion. Work out what you do. Pause me now. Situation number 3. A group of people turn up with weapons threatening to kill everyone if you do not surrender and let them take charge. Let me say that again. A group of people turn up with weapons threatening to kill everyone if you do not surrender and let them take charge. That's situation number 3. Pause me now. And then situation number 4 is this one, so make sure you're ready. A visiting religious person comes to your community and starts to teach that God does not want you to live this way. A lot of people start to believe this and want to change, which will destabilize your community. It will upset your community. Let me say that again. A visiting person comes to your community and starts to teach that God does not want you to live this way. A lot of people start to believe this and want to change, and that will destabilize your community. So use the next 15 minutes to keep working on that sheet, get everything completed on it, and then come back to me. Okay, so let's just recap what we've done so far. We said it would be good if we could explain what we think needs to happen if we were starting off a new society. We said it would be great if we could select relevant information from decisions made throughout the lesson to create suitable rules for your society, and even better if you could distinguish between rules that bring fairness with those that are necessary for the greater good. In other words, you may have come up with some rules that you think might actually upset some people, but actually are necessary to help everyone else out. And that brings us to our final activity. So what you're going to do now, between now and the end of your lesson, is you're going to create a town charter. So you're going to think about what you want your values to be in our society. Remember, our title today is about kingdom values. So what values, what's important to the world? What's important to your world? And we're going to think about what's important to Christians' world and to God's world later on in this unit. So you'll see there's a couple of town charters. There's a blank one, like the one on the screen behind me, and there's also one that you can fill in some blanks on if you'd rather. So what are you going to determine in your community charter? What do you want to say is really important to your new community? What rules are you going to have? So maybe just summarize some of the key rules down, maybe the golden rule that you've identified at the bottom of the sheet. Are these rules about fairness? Are they actually to try and help society? So actually fairness doesn't always come into play. And how will your society welcome newcomers? How will they welcome refugees, for example? So there are all some things for you to be thinking about. Hopefully today you've got quite a bit of this through discussion with each other. Thanks very much for your time. I'll leave that with you. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, wash hands, God bless you. I'll be seeing you soon.